We now move to item number 8, protection of minors online. The rapporteur for this is Ms. Christel Schaldemose. She's coming. Great. Today's discussion is intended to allow the rapporteur, Ms. Schaldemose, to present the amendments and the draft compromises on this own initiative report, and for the shadow rapporteurs to provide their views on the draft compromises. 471 amendments were tabled to the draft report. 9 draft compromise amendments have been drafted so far. The CULT committee is providing an opinion under Rule 57, and the rapporteur in CULT is Mr. Ivailo Valchev. So the vote in CULT is scheduled for 24th September. In IMCO, vote is scheduled for 16th October. And now I invite the rapporteur, Ms. Schaldemose, to take the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you so much for this, and I do apologize for being a little bit late. First and foremost, I would like to thank all my shadow rapporteurs in the work on this initiative report on how we protect minors online. I think so far we have had a very constructive cooperation, and I think that it will be possible to achieve compromises that are also ambitious, even though we are still not there yet. But we worked on it, and yesterday we had a meeting where I think we really came quite a long way. We are discussing right now, as you said, a lot of compromise amendments, and we're discussing how to welcome the guidelines from the Commission. We are discussing which kind of, if at all, we should make some prohibition of gambling-like features, for instance, loot boxes. We're discussing mandatory use of real currencies. We're discussing maybe the biggest thing, age assurance, age verification. In that we have several different aspects, how we should safeguard minors, should it be mandatory or voluntary, the methodology around it, maybe even an European-wide age limit on access to social media. And we're also discussing liability questions. Should we go further on, not opening the DSA, but go further on, making it clearer for the platforms that they have liability unless they are not complying with the guidelines from Article 28. So that is what we're discussing. I think we will find broad majorities, at least that's my intention, to make sure that we get more or less or at least a big majority of groups behind us. That will give the strongest report and also send the clearest signal to the European Commission. But there is no doubt that what we see right now makes it very important for us all to protect minors better than we're doing. And therefore our proposals will be able to play a role in the implementation of the Digital Services Act, but also in some recommendations, for instance, for the Digital Fairness Act that we expect will come next year. Let me be very frank with you that I think that the biggest issues will be around age verification, age assurance, how to define it, how to do it. Should it be a governmental or EU Commission proposal where we also allow systems that are invented by companies? Should it be, a tough verification, or should it be a little bit more soft? That's what we're discussing. My personal point of view is that it is very important that we use the tool of age verification. It will bring along a better protection. It's not a silver bullet, but it will bring along a bigger and a better protection. And I think it is not enough to leave it to parental control only on that we will not be able to deliver. We will leave a lot of kids behind if we say that it is only about parental control. I am simply not sure that it is a task alone for parents. They will simply not be able to go up against algorithms and strong big tech companies. However, I do see a role for parents. They, of course, also do have to play a role in their kids' online life. On gaming or gambling activities, here we also have to do something. It is probably one of the difficult areas as well. Should we prohibit or suggest prohibition of loot boxes, etc.? Here it is a little less strong majority. I hope that I can convince my colleagues to go a little further down that road. Because I think already last mandate, the Parliament suggested to ban loot boxes, and I think we should follow that. Anyway, I'm looking very much forward to hear your point of views. I thank you very much for the cooperation, and I truly believe that it is possible to deliver a strong and almost united backing behind the initiative. And if we do so, it will also be the strongest signal towards the EU Commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Schaldemose, for your presentation. I would like to now give the floor to the shadow rapporteurs for 3 minutes each. Should time allow, I also invite colleagues who would like to take the floor after the shadow rapporteurs to indicate this by showing your nameplates or raising a hand. So we start with the EPP shadow. In the name of Ms. Dora David, will be speaking Mr. Pablo Arias Echeverría. Please.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm going to speak on the behalf of Dora David as shadow rapporteur on this in the report. First of all, I would like to thank Christel Schaldemose and her team's hard work and that of everyone involved on it. I'm very happy that we all agree on our common goal, safe digital space for children. There are no silver bullets, but I welcome our constructive approach to ensure that we have a comprehensive toolbox for protecting minors online and that we use those tools effectively. Those tools should include the following. Minors should not be permitted to register on social media or video sharing platforms under the age of 16 without parental consent. This balances children's rights to participation and information with their safety, while acknowledging parental responsibility and empowering them to decide when their child is mature enough to access these services. Of course, prerequisite for this is effective age checks commensurate with the risk of the service. In the case of social media and video sharing platforms, age assurance mechanisms must be highly effective, accurate, reliable, non-intrusive, and privacy-preserving. Social media and video sharing platforms should not show minors content based on profiling, because profiling-based recommender systems are one of the most addictive features, making it very hard to leave the platform. This takes time away from sleep, study, and real-world interactions. We should not forget about video games and should therefore extend DSA equivalent protections to them. Children deserve the same robust level of protection irrespective of whether the service they are engaging with happens to qualify as an online platform or not. Without a doubt, the video games industry is a key pillar of Europe's creative economy and has many benefits, but we cannot ignore research that loot boxes may act as a gateway to gambling in youth. Gambling-like functionalities should therefore be provided for minors, and we need greater transparency for in-game currencies and transactions. Platforms should not be permitted to incentivize kid fluencing, a growing trend which makes children dependent on platforms, likes, views, and feedback under pressure to create content for commercial gain. We need to strengthen enforcement of existing laws and better coordinate among the different enforcement authorities. We already have strong protections through the DSA and the UCPD when it comes to things like dark patents. We should enforce these laws and focus on the legislative gaps. Finally, education and awareness raising is key, both for parents and minors, to understand and be able to handle online risk. In looking for the right solutions, we should have a harmonized EU approach that provides uniform protection for kids and doesn't fragment the single market, a solution which acknowledges parental responsibility and empower parents to make informed decisions about their children's online experience, a solution that takes into account the specificities of the platforms and adopts the risk-based approach. Yes. I look forward for continuing our work, and I trust we can make meaningful advances to protect our children.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to ask for taking a floor Ms. Elisabeth Dieringer in the name of the Patriots. Please remember 3 minutes.
Vielen Dank, sehr geehrte Frau Vorsitzende.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Rapporteur, colleagues. It's a great honour for me to be able to talk about the protection of minors and young people on the internet as a shadow rapporteur for the first time. We all know that the internet is a place where you've got opportunity, but certainly as far as young people are concerned, there are considerable risks, and it is the job of all of us, therefore, to create clear rules. I'd like to thank Christel Schaldemose and her office for all the energy that they and their group have invested into this report, but as a representative of the third biggest group, I would have to say in the compromise amendments that there was almost no consideration taken of our point of view. Many European citizens agree with us that this has developed in a direction which has got less to do with proper protection of children than a curtailment of freedom of expression. And a key thing here is age verification. We've said time and time again that it must never be made into an instrument where the state can surveil the activity of people on the internet. If we want to have age protection, we need to have data protection friendly solutions, and it must be possible for the users to be able to verify it, and this is essential. It is the job of the Commission, therefore, to ensure that they bring this into line with data protection measures wherever necessary, and anything that goes beyond that is really the same as centralization. It's important that parents should be strengthened in their roles, and there should be tools made available which are transparent and effective. But the responsibility of parents should not be put into second rank. That needs to remain the primary place rather than through the state, and that's what this report is trying to achieve. And we think we will see over-regulation coming in through the back door of this report, and there will be will not accept intervention into the algorithms which affect the freedom. So we want general ability, but for parents to control things, but no general ban on loot boxes, without there being restriction on freedom of expression. And if this House really takes freedom and responsibility seriously, then our proposals should also be a stronger part of this. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now for ECR, Mr. Kosma Złotowski.
Szanowna Pani Przewodnicząca.
Dear Chair, ladies and gentlemen, after the negotiations so far, we see clearly that the issue of protecting the minors is a topic that unites us all, but on the other hand, it also divides us. We all agree about the needs to make the internet a safer place, especially for children, but we differ in terms of views how to achieve that objective. But it is in diversity that we find our strength. We represent different countries, different cultural traditions, and different upbringing practices. a consolidated EU system does not see those national nuances, but there is something that unites us, which is the family, which is the most important element of our societies in all the countries. It is the parents that impact the conditions and the patterns that the children are taught at home. It is the parents who are the most important keep seekers of the good of their children. That is why I don't understand the amendments that are rejected and that underlined the key role of parents in terms of protecting their children on the web. I am against all European norms regulating how long children should be permitted to stay on the web, or when they should be able to have an account set up on Facebook and other portals. It is the parents that should decide that. The state or the EU should not interfere with the ways children are brought up, and the EU should not have the possibility to verify our identities on the internet and also verify what content we are watching. This would be mere censorship. Of course, one can add more and more obligations on social platforms, but even the most important safeguards and blockades will not be sufficient if children are clever enough and able to circumvent them. And they normally are. Ladies and gentlemen, we need fewer top-down obligations and prohibitions. We should place more trust in families and in the children, in parents, that they do the best that is for their children. Thank you very much.
Yon-Courtin for Renew.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. D'abord,
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank the rapporteur, Christel Schaldemose, for this good draft report, and the shadow rapporteurs that we've worked with and we've had very good discussions with. Before the Digital Fairness Act comes in, the Parliament needs to send a strong message and adopt an ambitious position to guarantee the protection of our children online. Now, that could be at home or in school. We are all aware of the dangers that young people are exposed to with the inappropriate content, addictive algorithms, etc. And so we need to be up to the job of combating that. Verification of age is obviously now essential. Young people are the ones that are most exposed. We can't let them on the platforms and the social networks able to exploit their emotions, and it is up to the platforms to ensure that they protect children. Age verification is the cornerstone of this digital requirement in order to bring about that. But as the rapporteur, Schaldemose, said, age verification isn't the only key aspect. So we want an obligatory age verification system. We want to respect to private life, and in the future EU digital identity wallet, which would be something where the Commission has an age verification tool. So these tools need to be robust, and we need to encourage what is being done by some member states, notably France. Age verification must be safe. There must be strong guarantees in order to protect private life. It needs to be anonymized, and the data needs to be securitized. Thirdly, there mustn't be age verification without there being proof of a certain age of majority, and children should not be able to get onto at-risk platforms without the say-so of their parents. This is already the case, and many platforms have this, but we need a coherent European way of doing this. It shouldn't really be a ban. It should be a way of ensuring that parents and children are able to get online to these platforms gradually and in a responsible way.
Could you speak a little bit slower because of the translators? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Je soutiens pleinement.
Thank you. I fully support the proposals made in this report about dark patterns. Those are influences or games of chance online, and the Digital Fairness Act needs to look at all of the interfaces and any possibility to exploit the vulnerability of our children through phony interfaces. So young people are too often exposed to these kinds of publicity, and there are child influencers who are quite influential, and attempts have been made to improve this, notably in Spain, but it is essential that users have confidence in the system and it's transparent, but we need European level laws to make sure that there aren't differences between member states. And finally, let me say that education, digital education programs are important both for children and parents. Thank you very much to the rapporteur and to all colleagues. We need to get a move on, get our skates on with this to avoid other disasters happening, and I'm sure that we will be able to achieve a strong and ambitious common position, and we need to make it a safe digital space for our children.
Thank you very much. For the Greens, Ms. Kim van Sparrentak.
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm here. Ask any youngster or teenager on the street to show you their screen time, and they easily spend 7 hours on their device. While kids are glued to their devices, I sadly speak to more and more young people who were shown more shocking content just to keep them online, and were even slowly dragged into funnels of extremism, self-harm, eating disorders, or misogyny by the algorithms. The super addictive design of games and online services now impacts children's ability to focus in schools, and problematic smartphone use can have a serious mental health impact with risks of depression, anxiety, and even effects on brain development. If we do not intervene now, this will have an enormous impact on generations to come. But we should not get lazy. A safe internet for kids should not only be about restricting children or parents' responsibility, because no one can beat the manipulative tricks big tech uses to keep us online at all costs, even if they end up showing children harmful content. We need to be ambitious and fundamentally tackle the unsafe system behind it. Online platforms should be safe for everyone. And this is why we have to ban the most harmful addictive design features, such as the endless scroll and autoplay for everyone. Tackle addictive algorithms based on data collection, profiling, and engagement that promote shocking and outraging content. Let's give people, not the big tech companies, control to decide exactly what you want to see and when. For example, simply based on who you follow. We also had first discussions around a minimum age for certain online platforms, such as social media. I think if we do this, we need to make sure this can be done in a safe and privacy-friendly way. Luckily, there's already a rather safe and privacy-friendly EU-wide age verification option, the digital wallet, where big tech doesn't get to see who you are, how old you are, or where you're from, but just gets a red or green light upon the question whether you are the right age. And governments never get to see which websites you've accessed with your ID. I am worried about what will happen if we make it mandatory for people to show their age, but leave it completely to the market how to do it. I've seen quite dystopian age estimation systems where companies guess your age based on your scrolling behavior, prompts, posts, or even facial features. Let me be clear. Our children need to be safe online. And this also means they should not constantly be tracked, profiled, and followed online. And I don't want to give big tech a carte blanche and a legal basis to collect even more data about our children. I don't want to force anyone in the EU to participate in funky experiments these companies choose to do. If we make it mandatory for everyone in the EU to show whether they have the right age online, let's at least make sure they can do it in a way that nobody can see who they are, what their exact age is, nor track which websites they've been to. Eyes on the ball, we need to protect minors. And we're still in constructive discussions among shadows, and that's why I have some questions to the Commission. Because if we would go for a mandatory digital majority age like von der Leyen has announced, what, according to you, is currently the most safe age assurance method? Do you have good examples of safe and privacy-friendly age estimation methods? And would it be feasible to require that verification by the digital wallet is always an option and perhaps the preferred option? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, for the left, Ms. Leila Haibi. It's not here, so I now invite the opinion-giving committee rapporteur, Mr. Walczak, to take the floor. No, he's absent. So at the moment, I now invite colleagues who would like to take the floor to intervene, and we will start with Ms. Borzan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will speak in English, so please put on your headphones. Prema istraživanju koje...
According to research I made in Croatia, almost 95% of Croatian citizens believe that children have too much screen time in front of social networks and that they can cause addiction. 91% believe that the EU should do more to protect our children. Furthermore, up to 74% of respondents believe that screen time is the cause for children who do not make it to the first grade of school because of a lack of graphical motoric skills or other social skills which delay their school entering age. Therefore, this report is so important. In the past, children could freely buy alcohol or cigarettes, but that was not good. The internet is the same. It affects mental health, mental and physical development of children, and this is a scientific fact. Therefore, I believe that we need to approach this with a lot of ambition. Platforms must control content they offer, and the system of age verification has to be efficient and appropriate, and we need to find an easy way for parents to control not only content, but also devices they give their children. Also, raising digital print has to be easy for minors. I support Mrs. Schaldemose in her proposals, and I await further work on this file.
Now, Mr. Tsiodras.
Thank you. Please let me speak in my mother tongue, Greek. Από το 2010, ο μέσος χρόνος που αφιερώνουν τα παιδιά ηλικίας.
Thank you very much. Since 2010, children between the ages of 9 and 15 have been spending huge amounts of time online, on screen, twice as much as just 10 years ago. That has a considerable impact on their mental health. They are experiencing bullying on the internet, and they end up being addicted because the use of the internet is just resulting in them doing more and more online. So what we need to do is create an environment which is safe for children, and to do so we need to know what the age of majority is for the internet use, that's 15, and we need to be inspired by the kid's wallet. So these are digital solutions so that parents are better able to follow what their children are doing on the internet and what they're buying. We need more initiatives to better train teachers and parents. And in Greece, we have a website which provides a huge amount of information to that end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Ms. Ballarín.
Muchas gracias, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the rapporteur on this report, my colleague Christel Schaldemose, for her good work on drawing up this draft report, and congratulations also on the negotiations. The S&D group has been asking for this topic, the protection of minors online, to be placed at the top of the agenda in Europe since the beginning of the legislation. This report is proof of that. We also welcome the fact that President von der Leyen is including this topic in her speech on the State of the Union. I think that the report is well balanced between the different groups. I think there are two important points I'd like to highlight, and I'd also like to see how we can move forward. So first of all, I think it's extremely important for this report to include age verification. Of course, we believe that needs to be robust and effective, and it needs to protect minors' privacy. But this also needs to go hand in hand with the debate on the digital age of majority. We need to undertake this debate, see how we're going to do this, but we can't be hypocritical about it. And I think that if certain tools exist that are robust when it comes to, if they're not robust when it comes to age verification, we won't be able to protect minors from the harmful content that they are consuming, which are leading us to a mental and physical health pandemic among our young people. Secondly, I think it's important for this report to include a reference to the future Digital Fairness Act. If we want to be ambitious, we can't simply stick to the laws we already have. Yes, we have to implement those, but we also have to call on the other members of this parliament to make progress in this area so that we can address the dark patterns, the rabbit holes that exist, and of course the role of influencers. Finally, I think today's debate has shown the hypocrisy of the far right, saying that they protect our minors when in reality all that they care about is protecting the large technology companies. So I hope that European forces will unite and that we will be able to have an ambitious report. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Piperea, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to speak Romanian. Este evident că trebuie.
It is obvious that we have to protect our children against online abuse, all type of abuse. But it is also obvious that we cannot allow this noble purpose to be turned in a new way of controlling the masses. It is more important than to react to the effects to fight the causes. I'd say that a good example is the directive for mass media, which makes it mandatory for media creators to use visual warnings in order to signal the shows which are prohibited for minors under 14 years. This content, which could be harmful to minors, is only allowed in timely intervals which are rather susceptible to be watched by minors. I think we should ask the same from online service providers. We need to have a clear visual warning for sensitive contents, but also warning for parents to help them to know that their children look at different sites or platforms with harmful content. It is obvious, and I join the other colleagues who said the same, that we cannot let algorithms educate our children. It is our task as parents. We should be the first to protect our children, and therefore we need tools and information in real time from the platforms. We have to combine these two things. On one hand, to inform and support the parents, and on the other hand, to make the platforms responsible to notify everyone on the harmful contents for minors. Before we try different techniques, which could or could not work, in order to check the age. So we have to fight the cause, the abusers, which are free online if they agree to the official way of thinking. I'd say we should rather focus on these content creators, these abusive content creators, as we do with drug traffickers and pedophiles.
Mr. Saudargas, please.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, I think we all agree that the problem exists and we should deliver because the problem is real. But the problem is technical. It's in a digital world. And the tools that we are talking about are also digital, technical issues. And the politicians picking up the technical tools should be very careful to pick up these tools because, as well as you, probably I'm getting hundreds or even thousands of letters about chat control issue. Yes, so the pathway could be very slippery when we are talking about digital tools. But here, for example, I also tabled some amendments. I do believe that the committee will take into account first real tool, and I support the colleagues that talked about adequate age verification. We really should, it should be an obligation for the platforms to implement appropriate, adequate and reliable age verification mechanisms. They really exist. Not like pushing the button that I'm 18 years old because 3-year-old person can do it, but normal, real things. And the second tool could really work. It's prohibition of minors to social networks. Because, for example, minors under the age of 16 should not be permitted to register on social media, for example, because I think social media is a first step exposing our children to really dangerous material, a dangerous world. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Arias Echeverría.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm going to speak in Spanish. Bueno, yo sí que quería...
Now I'd like to share my opinion on the report. I think this report is necessary. We have supported it from the very beginning, as we understand that this is a very common problem, and we all agree that this problem exists. It's true that the digital world provides many opportunities, many good things, many benefits. We all benefit from it, but it's not free from risks, including the risks we have identified. I think these are a growing problem that we need to address with the greatest possible diligence when it comes to protecting young people, minors, from the risks that surround them on social media and in the digital world in general. The responsibility to protect minors is not something that falls only to one or two people. It falls to all of us. I think that's very clear. And so we need to promote this. We need to have functioning age verification because that would solve many problems. But it's also true that we need to work towards education. We need to see how both adults and minors become familiar with the digital world. Sometimes we think that we already know about it, but we don't know as much as we think we do about the risks it poses. We cannot leave it to the private sector when it comes to finding solutions to problems that minors face, things like eating disorders, mental health problems, etc., particularly when it comes to mental health. And to conclude, everything that young people share on social media, is it all happy, or is the majority of what they share happy? It generally isn't, so this in turn frustrates them, because when someone has a problem, but they don't see other people sharing problems, they then seek out other places to solve this. They used to turn to their families or people they trusted. Now they seek this on the internet. They seek it on social media. And something that I'd like to say to Christel, the rapporteur, things like artificial intelligence as well. There are already chatbots that exist to respond to or be the friend of these young people who feel that AI has the answer to all of their problems. And this constitutes a risk. It can create even more problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm taking over again. Thanks to Camilla for replacing me. I was in my other committees. So now I think we have the last MEP, and then I give the floor to the Commission. Stefano Cavedagna.
Thank you, President. I will speak in Italian. Grazie.
So, thank you very much, Chair. I listened with great interest to this debate, and I'm convinced, my delegation is convinced, that we need to make an effort to make digital platforms more responsible, and we need common rules as well. And I'm very proud to see that Italy has subscribed to the non-paper from Greece, Spain, Denmark, Cyprus and Slovenia, along the lines of a proposal already made in Parliament. It has bipartisan support to regulate the access of minors. And one proposal is to limit the access of under 16s. And I think this was picked up on in President von der Leyen's State of the Union speech. So the responsibility needs to lie more with the platforms, but also member states need to make an effort when it comes to compliance with legislation to avoid any damage to young people who can be victims of abuse and have mental health problems as well. They may be forced or encouraged to embark on dangerous challenges, and profiling and age verification on the basis of a document should not violate adults' freedom of speech, we do need to make a common effort to protect minors. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So this concludes the round of MEPs, and as announced, I give the floor to the Commission. I guess we have two guests or more. Yeah, Prabhat Agarwal, Director of CNECT F, and Myrto Kanellopoulou from DG Just, correct? Yes, hi, welcome. And I don't know, you have 5 minutes, you can distribute amongst yourself.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anna, and always a pleasure to be in the committee. Also, thank you to the rapporteur and her team, as well as the interventions. I'll be very brief and hand over to my colleague Myrto just in a minute. As you know, protecting minors online is really a key priority of the Commission. It's something that we have now even set up a dedicated team for inside the DSA enforcement team, and it's essential that minors' privacy, safety, and security are well protected in the digital age. We therefore warmly welcome the work on the report. It shows that we really share many of the priorities around protecting, promoting, and respecting children in their rights and their rights online. We also welcome a recognition in many amendments of the work that is being done on this already, and notably with the Better Internet for Kids strategy and the Safer Internet Centers, the Audiovisual Media Services Directive and its upcoming evaluation and possible its review, but also the Digital Services Act with its enforcement and guidelines. The age verification blueprint that has also been mentioned by some MEPs, but also the cyberbullying action plan, just to name a few. And let me just respond to three elements in the draft report and the amendments. One on the calls for swifter and better DSA enforcement. This is something I think about day and night, more or less, and it's also the reason why we have restructured our teams recently on the 1st of July to actually be able to better distribute the workload around enforcement actions and to be more effective, faster, more efficient in our investigatory actions. We have taken action only recently against 4 pornographic platforms, Pornhub, StripChat, XNXX, and Xvideos, for suspicion that in violation of the Digital Services Act, minors have unfettered access. We're also running other cases since on protection of minors, focused on algorithmic systems, addictive design, rabbit holes of harmful content, as well as the efficacy of age checks to protect minors' rights and mental health online. We will continue to pursue these cases with the utmost urgency. I have already mentioned previous enforcement cases to this committee. I won't go into too much detail. Last year, we took action against TikTok Lite and extracted commitments, which actually also address directly the issue of online addictive design. And the guidelines that have been mentioned have been only recently outlining a really very ambitious set of principles that we will use in the enforcement of the Digital Services Act. These are not just empty letter guidelines, and these are not just non-binding words, but these will guide and direct the expectations around the enforcement of the Digital Services Act. The blueprint for age verification is separate and different from what many other jurisdictions have been doing in the space of age verification, because precisely in response to the committee's concerns also, it offers the possibility of completely anonymous verification of a user's age, unlike the practice of scanning ID cards by the platforms themselves or similar features that will be very intrusive. And I can report here that the first results of the pilot engagement with the providers as well as member states authorities has been encouraging for us, and we have good results with the technical teams working together across many of the platforms. Let me also mention briefly that on the interaction with other legislation, in November the Commission will publish its report on the articulation of the DSA and other laws, and this will include some of the legislation that's mentioned in your report. I'll be making just 2 small points now. One on the calls for further limits or restrictions to children's access. You have heard President Ursula von der Leyen's emphasis in her State of the Union speech here to the European Parliament to empower parents, protect children better, and the proposed exploration via an expert group of possible further restrictions for social media access. To this end, we are setting up an expert panel by the end of this year to advise on the best approach for Europe. Indeed, it's not just because we are frontrunners on many aspects that we can't do more. We have to listen to everyone, of course, from experts to parents, to member states, and of course to children themselves as well. We have very close cooperation agreements with Australia and are following very closely everything that is going on. And of course, I wish to recall that we also are engaged with our colleagues under the leadership of Commissioner Vaheli and jointly together with EVP Virkkunen on an EU-wide inquiry into the impact of social media on mental health and well-being. On the cause for further legislation, you know my position, and it has been always repeated here that we of course are ready to work with you to identify any possible gaps. We would just warn and caution against creating additional overlapping or conflicting rules as well. I'll hand over to my colleague Myrto at this point.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Prabhat. I would like to start, of course, by echoing the words of my colleague in welcoming the strong engagement of the European Parliament on the protection of minors online and the intense work by the rapporteur, by the members of this committee on this own initiative report. We in the Commission's side are indeed committed to ensuring that all children in the EU benefit from a high level of protection online. Many references were made today to the upcoming Digital Fairness Act. This is indeed one of the key priorities for the Commission for the next year, as indicated by President von der Leyen in her letter of intent to the European Parliament following the State of the Union address. It will cover specific and clearly identified gaps in our consumer protection rules in the online environment. This includes dark patterns, addictive design features, including problematic features in video games. Many references were made today to issues such as loot boxes and gambling-like features. These are indeed aspects we are looking at in the context of the DFA. We are also looking into unfair influencer marketing and unfair personalization practices when consumers' vulnerabilities are exploited for commercial purposes. Now, the protection of minors will be a transversal and key element for the Digital Fairness Act. The impact assessment will specifically address whether higher protection is needed for children as young consumers in all the areas that I just mentioned. There was a lot of discussion today around age verification and a minimum age of majority. As just explained, there is an expert panel process that is led by our colleagues in DG Connect. We are, of course, contributing and following closely also from the side of DG Justice and the development of the Digital Fairness Act. What other aspects that we are evaluating is whether certain functionalities should be disabled by default, or if parents should have greater control over certain features in websites, applications, and products that are addressed to minors. We're also considering whether it's necessary to extend some of the prohibitions currently contained in other pieces of legislation, such as on targeted advertising towards minors under the Digital Services Act, to cover other categories of traders. So we appreciate a lot the calls for the Digital Fairness Act to address these remaining gaps in consumer protection, particularly with regard to minors, both in the draft report, across numerous amendments, and of course in the room here today. We also appreciate the clear call for a revision of the CPC regulation. Stronger enforcement was mentioned, and this is indeed a priority we fully share. We have also heard very clearly calls for caution and proportionality. We want to make sure that in our proposals we ensure not only robust protection for minors online, but also simpler, clearer rules and a level playing field for business in the digital single markets. We have a call for evidence and public consultation that is currently running on the DFA until the 24th of October. That is exactly 1 month from today. So please encourage your constituents to contribute. And we will, of course, be analyzing the input thoroughly in the impact assessment process. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much to the Commission. And now I give the floor back to the rapporteur.
Thank you very much, all of you, for participating and give good inputs for this important report. I still hope that it will be possible to have a broad support for the report, but also let me be honest, and I think it is easy to hear here today that we have also differences between us, but there is a core around EPP, Renew, S&D, and to a certain extent Greens, where we can hopefully agree, but I would like all groups to be a part of this. And what we heard today is that it is not just a political difference. I mean, also some people coming from countries that wants to go further on age verification, for instance. I think that's important to hear those voices, and I hope that we can bring in also more groups to support a bigger part of the report, because what we see still is that kids and minors are exposed to suicide, murder, self-injury, bullying, and they spend, far too many hours on a daily basis on social media because they get addicted. And we have already in place a lot of good tools with the DSA, and I am personally very happy with the guidelines. We're going to discuss them a little later. But I also think that we need to do more. There are loopholes. We need to do more about age verification. And I think that we also have to look at some unfair commercial practices. So therefore, we need to call for more. I hope that we will get a strong report. I thank you very much for your involvement. And I hope that we will see the result when we vote as a strong support for doing even more, even though we have already done something. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And as we all know, the vote is scheduled for the 16th of October.